if you want to try it out. And we're
Yeah, I
live.
definitely want to try it. Okay.
I think it's worth it. If for no other
Have you
reason
been
than
smoking grass?
oh well, thank you, Angelus36 for the follow.
Yeah.
Even if for no other reason than to just see what else is out there and see, is this worth moving away from Premiere, or am I entrenched in Premiere and I'll stay with that? Because
Well, I
I
mean,
hadn't
I've
used
used
Premiere, and
I used to use GarageBand. I've used what's the other free one that everybody uses?
oh well, Audacity.
Audacity. I've used that. And it's like I can, but
Yeah.
I've been paying for ease of use and the tools that
Oh,
I like,
absolutely.
and I really want to make myself quit paying for just that because it's
That's a big subscription if all you're using is Audition too. Like
I use other stuff, but so occasionally it's not worth it.
right. That's the big thing keeping me away from the Adobe suite is just I'm like I'd use Audition and I might use Photoshop like once a year. Is it worth paying every month for that? No, when I can stumble
Yeah.
through with something else for that once a year I need it, and then I just got really used to Reaper. And I actually started putting buttons into Reaper for on my Stream Deck, so I can do things there. It's made a huge difference. Well, you're coming through loud and clear, sounding good. I like the
Good.
green in your hair, by the way. That's a good.
Thank you.
I had that very similar color green for a while. Mine
Yeah, I
ended up.
still have some that like was bleached a long time ago, so I'm just kind of
Yeah,
throwing stuff on it until it all grows out.
mine's
Seeing-
only this end bit is still bleached. I got to do the rest of it. But my
I'm
green
not
would
bleaching
fade.
anymore. I'm seeing how much gray I have, and I have enough that I might be able to just grow it out and have gray hair, which is fine. I've earned it.
It's true. All right. So you could hear the audio, so that's good.
Yep.
And we're up on the stream, and everything's looking good there. You're coming through loud and clear. We're ready for the recording. So, I mean, if you're ready, I'm ready.
Sure.
Okay. Well, then we will do this in. Where's my thing? We're over here. Oh, I need to start this first. That's what I forgot to do.
Oh, I don't have a cuff button.
That's something that I need to do for myself. I got to remember to do that. But we are going to get started in 3, 2, 1.
Okay, what the is going on? Who are you people? Why are you covered in blood? Why do you have my gun? Why does my neck hurt? Who tased me? Chris, I f***ing knew you killed that kid. I knew you were crazy like that. I need answers, and I need them now.
Shut the f up, sit down and listen.
Hello and welcome. Welcome and hello. This is Wait. You haven't seen? It's a show where we talk about movies, and specifically, we talk about a movie at least one of us has never seen before. I'm your host, Travis, a.k.a. TV's Travis. This is episode number 198. And the movie we watched this week, closing out our December of alternative Christmas movies, was Sleigh Bells from 2018. And joining me to talk about it, because she had seen it and I never had, it's September McCready. September, how are you doing?
I'm doing good today. How are you?
I am doing pretty well, yeah. So Christmas has come and gone. We're actually post-Christmas as we record this, but it's still Christmas movie season, so this counts. And this month, I've been wanting to do kind of different Christmas movies. So not your traditional, kind of Night Before Christmas or Hallmark Christmas or something, but stuff that isn't your normal Christmas movie. So we've talked about Bad Santa. Last week I talked about Gremlins, which is a super fun movie set around Christmas. And when I was talking with you, you mentioned Sleigh Bells, and I said, what's Sleigh Bells? And and I think your response was like, it's awesome, you need to watch it. And so we did. What's your history with Sleigh Bells? When did you first see it?
It must have been not long because it came out in 2018. So I'm thinking about 2 years ago I found it.
Okay.
not sure how, must have popped up, somewhere in the streaming, and it was like, oh my, well, we have to watch that because it's gonna be in our feed. We like B movies and bad stuff and
Sure,
gory
absolutely.
stuff. It's very, tongue in cheek, and there's always that line you're trying to walk, right?
Mhm.
Where it's like, how bad is it on purpose? How bad is it just bad? And then like there's magic that happens. We used to have beer and bad movie night and watch MST3K
Oh, sure.
every week at my house for the longest time. So this popped up, and me and my husband just drank and laughed through the whole thing. I mean, I couldn't pass up Barry Bostwick either. That was definitely the clincher for me.
That was what roped me in. So the synopsis of it is it's Christmas Eve and three cosplaying women come across a malevolent Christmas demon, Krampus. The girls must team up with Santa Claus himself to battle the creature and save the world. Kind of doesn't really tell you what the movie is, but it sort of also does at the exact same time. It's weird that way.
Yeah, loosely termed, right? Cosplayers, but they can't say YouTubers because
Right.
they can't brand it that way in the movie.
And so I had not heard of it before. It's streaming on several of the free ad supported services, Tubi TV, Freevee, and a couple of other ones like that, Roku, I think. 2018. It's a very low budget movie. In fact, I was reading, and apparently the director, Spooky Dan Walker, which cracked me up. But he had sent the script to Barry Bostwick's agent. And his agent was like, yeah, no, you can't pay enough. Like, he can make more doing autographs at a convention for a day. But then supposedly, according to the trivia, Barry Bostwick actually called Dan Walker back a couple weeks later. It's like, I read the script. I love it. Let's do it. So, and honestly, like, that was what got my attention. When you told me about Sleigh Bells, I looked it up and it's like, Barry Bostwick, Santa Claus. Well, I'm in. Like, you've got me already. And it does toe that line, right? So it is an alternative Christmas movie. It's set on Christmas Eve, but there's no snow. It's in California, or at least where I'm assuming it's California. They never really say where,
Not really, no.
but I'm sure that's where it is. And there's these three girls. Two of them have their own. It's streaming. So they never mention YouTube by name, but the video clips always look like they're, the YouTube interface. And they're adventure girls. And that is two of our mains, Dahlia and Sadie. And they have their adventure girls, and they go urban exploring, basically trespassing. They just go to abandoned places, wander about, and then take stuff.
See, and I actually identify with that, like being a kid of the 80s and stuff. Like, and we would go to, I lived near Niagara Falls. We would go to like abandoned freaking missile silos and just what's here in adventure, and or abandoning. There was a canning factory that burned down, decades before, and grab little mementos, right? Like some kind of little gauge or, so I don't know.
Yeah, no, we definitely had that around here. They had the Traverse City State Hospital is what it was, and it had been an asylum well back, and then closed down, and it was abandoned for years. They've since started renovating all the property, redoing a bunch of the buildings, putting in condos and stores and offices and all that kind of stuff. But for the longest time when I was a kid, all of it was abandoned. They were just these huge old buildings and tunnels in between them, and that was, you'd go and check all that out.
Yeah. Buffalo has a famous psych center that was like that forever, but now it's a fancy hotel.
Right.
But we didn't have YouTube back then to show everybody, but it's a premise for like now this would happen. There would be a channel of people, girls doing this. Although the ages of these actresses is really kind of like,
it's a little all over the map. I was kind of surprised by that. Susan Slaughter plays Dahlia. and she had been on Ghost Hunters International, I think, prior to this movie. And then
Okay.
yeah, and
It was making me crazy. Like, she looked familiar. When I Googled her name, all I could find was like some famous flautist. But then I found her on IMDb, and it was like, she's a self-identified witch. And I was like, I'm not finding everything I need. It really sounds like a porn name. I don't.
It does a little bit. And then Hannah Minks, or Hannah Wagner, played Sadie. She was a YouTuber. And actually, her story is I could not find anything on her. She was in The Devil's Carnival in 2012. She had a small part in that. She was in this movie. She had a YouTube channel for a few years and then just sort of disappeared. And when I went to look for her on YouTube or anywhere just to like see what other work she had done or what kind of stuff she did on YouTube, it was all either reposts of her old videos or videos saying, talking about her disappearance from YouTube and the mystery behind it, that nobody's seen her since. She apparently didn't even go to the premiere of this movie. Like nobody had seen her for over a year or something. I mean,
come on,
strange.
sweetie, you can come out. It wasn't that bad. I enjoyed it.
And then we had Christina Kleb or Klebe. I'm not sure how I would pronounce that, but she was Alexi. Interesting thing is both the characters of Dahlia and Sadie feel like they're in sort of their mid-20s is kind of what I would guess, mid to late 20s. And Alexi kind of feels like she'd maybe be the same age. No, the actress playing her was like 40 when they made this. And then you've got Barry Bostwick, of course, as Santa. I actually think that the three leads were great. The three of them had real good chemistry together. I thought that they were, I wouldn't call it Oscar-winning performances for their acting, but it's certainly by
some
proxy.
of the lines are a little wooden.
A little bit.
But for the most part, they're having a good time.
They are, and it helps that Sadie, for instance, Hannah Wagner or Hannah Minks, is playing a character who is very similar to the character she did on YouTube. So she is playing that same type of personality. So it's not a huge stretch for her. So she can just kind of be that same personality. But they had great chemistry together, and their acting by proxy to everyone else in the movie outside of Barry Bostwick is phenomenal. Because if I have one complaint, it's that the rest of the acting in this was okay. Richard Mall aside, which was a nice little surprise. Some of the side character actors you could tell had never acted before, or if they had, it hadn't been in front of a camera. The lady doing the 911 calls cracked me up.
Yeah, she reminded me of like some old sitcom stuff though. Like Flo could have been there, you know.
Yeah, a little bit. The sheriff, for instance, the sheriff just made me chuckle every time he was on screen. Because it was like he couldn't remember what he was supposed to say, and all he said was the same thing every time. Like he just kept saying, "I don't know what's going on," but he couldn't remember to say that, so he just like looked flustered. But it was so weird.
That whole cop shop was very Dukes of Hazzard.
It was, and it's weird. This movie is an hour and 17 minutes long, which, by the way, 8 of those minutes are credits. Which I thought was crazy. I was like, 8 minutes of credits. Is this Stargate? What's going on?
Well, I mean, I think almost all the budget, other than Barry Bostwick, who he must have not. There must have been not any cons going on because it's also really not his best performance. But the Krampus is good.
Oh, yes.
That's a lot of good practical effects, and like all the budget went there.
Mm-hmm. And Dan Walker has a background in special effects and visual effects. That was kind of his thing. He's only directed a couple of things, and they were all, sort of direct to video, and then this. But he's visual effects all through, working on all sorts of stuff. Star Trek Beyond. He worked on like Get Smart. Doing digital stuff. So that's his background, and it works because the visuals of Krampus are great. Now, unfortunately, I'll save that for a little bit. I have some complaints about the movie, but they're me putting on my filmmaker hat complaints.
Okay,
As
so
just an experience, I liked it.
In the not YouTube bits
Mm-hmm.
where they show the channel, they kind of cut away
Yep.
to show what their show is like. Which, as far as setup, they I think they actually did a good job for such a fast time frame to like, if you didn't know what streaming was the way that we do,
Mm-hmm.
you were like, oh, okay, that's what they mean. That's what they're doing.
Yeah.
There was a reason I asked you if you had seen Repo, the
Oh, okay.
genetic opera.
Right.
In one of the little shots of them like goofing around, showing a snippet of their channel, there's an ad for Zydrate. And I didn't catch it the first time too, but on the rewatch recently, my husband was like, "Oh my God, look!" And we were like, and we started singing the stupid like "In a Little Glass Vial" song. But that was a nifty little nod for. I mean, the audience for this is definitely we love bad movies.
Oh, for sure. And in fact, Hannah Wagner was in a movie by the same people that made Repo. That's the Devil's Carnival is the same. I can't remember his name now. It started with a Z, I think, or something. Whatever his name is, he's the one that made Repo, the genetic opera, and then he did the Devil's Carnival later. And he's done a couple of those now. She was in that first one, so there's a little connection there as well.
So there's a little Easter egg for everybody.
Yeah. Now you mentioned it's not Barry Bostwick's best performance, and you're right. It's not his best performance. However, he's super fun in it. You can tell he's having fun being this like weirdly not quite all there Santa Claus.
There is momentum to the performance, I will say.
Yes. When we meet him, he's like kind of dressed like a biker, but not. And he like a little bit, and then he changes to the Santa Claus outfit, which now that I've finished the movie, the way he's dressed at the start makes more sense.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, he's having fun. He's just a weird version of Santa Claus. He's not quite all there. I think if I had complaints about the movie, it's not the cast, because I think that your four leads are good, and they worked well together. Diane Salinger as Cherry is really hamming it up, and I think my only complaint with that character is we meet her at the beginning, and then she doesn't show up again until right at the end to have that reveal. This movie was an hour and 17 minutes long, and it felt like there needed to be more story development, but also I kind of like don't want it to be any longer than that. Like the pacing, I feel like if it was too much longer, it would be too much. And yet there were parts of it where I'm like, wait a minute, hold on. How did Santa and Krampus get back outside and start fighting? Santa was in the house like the last scene, and then he just appears. So it's like there was a scene missing where he goes after Krampus, and then they fight out under the moonlight. It was stuff like that where it felt like it just felt like a production where they were sort of, well, we got to move things along, and so they would cut certain things out when you could have cut like everything out with the police station, and we wouldn't have missed it at all. Everything with the sheriff. Just about.
I don't know that I agree with that, because if we didn't have them trying to call 911, and that's something you miss in these movies, I'm usually like, oh my God, why would you not just call the police, right? And if their car hadn't got towed, they could have gotten away. And if they didn't call 911 and get ignored, you'd be like, why didn't this cop they talked to earlier follow them? Because they're out looking for trouble right now.
Yeah,
it kind of just.
The worst 911
just enough
operator
exposition.
ever.
Oh yeah,
she was terrible. She was awful. Like and
it wasn't as funny as it was supposed to be. Because at the end, there was like her realizing that all these people are being killed, and she's like, "Oh, whoops,"
Yeah, and that honestly is just comes down to you could tell she wasn't really an actor, and so like the delivery didn't match what they were going for in terms of like the comedy there. But again, I mean, look, you don't come to a movie like this for like high art either. This is a B movie. This is a fun movie, and I think that when it worked, when it was being fun, I enjoyed it. I did quite a bit. My complaints with it are more like I didn't love. I get the handheld stuff when they're shooting when it's everything that Sadie is shooting with her little handheld camera,
Right.
and whether they would be from her POV or the clips that they would show of their adventure girls. That all made sense, but I think that what you do for that is then you have to juxtapose that with really locked off, really cinematic look camera work outside of it. And this didn't have that. The cinematography on it, both the lighting and then the camera work left a little, they felt amateurish. They felt like somebody's first movie in a way. And I get that, but like I've seen movies of this type that just get that part of it a little bit better. So because there were shots where I'm like, boy, I wouldn't have done this handheld because it just looks weird and like the camera's moving strangely for some reason. Or
I'm not sure if the budget is that low or that was a choice.
Right? Yes, that is it. That is exactly it. It's like it's one thing when you can tell that there's no budget and they made the movie for, a couple cases of beer and a $20 bill, and they couldn't afford to have anything. But this towed that line. They had enough money to shoot on video and have it look fairly decent, but not enough money to like. Or was it the choice to do it handheld? Was it the choice to shoot to light things the way that they did sometimes? So there's a few scenes in it where I'm like, I don't even know what's happening. I can't see anything. It's too dark. It's outside. It's dark, but
it
give me
kind of
something.
felt like it would be in a place like an abandoned, which I'm curious about the set. If you did get information about like that, obviously it was low, but the location, like if you're in a place like that, and they were not even bothering with flashlights and stuff, like they really should have been better equipped. I mean, if they're gonna film at night, although I don't know if they intended to stay at night either. Yeah, but anyway, a place like that's all broken down and decrepit. It is dark and creepy, and I think if we're all well lit to see what was going on better, it would have taken me out of
for sure
being in that space. So
yeah, that I get. Like I guess it's light it for film and then give us a reason where they have flashlights. But maybe all their flashlights were in their van that got towed. Really quickly too.
Maybe.
Like they weren't there for very long and that van just got towed. And nobody called it in. That's the funny part.
I know. Yeah, 911 wouldn't come. They wouldn't send anybody, but somehow they got towed.
Yeah. Did Santa call him in and get him towed? No, it doesn't seem like he would have done. Like that would confuse me. But that's, again, like.
True. Santa could have called because he was trying to get rid of them.
Yeah.
But that would not be the way to get rid of them.
Well, no, because he tells them to get in their van and drive away, and then they turn around and somebody's driving away with their van. So
yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it was. Yeah.
But the funny thing is, so alternative Christmas movies like this, so it's got a Christmas theme around it, but it's not your traditional kind of holiday film. I'm fine with, and they're not anything new. They go as far back as stuff like Black Christmas or Christmas Evil from the late 70s, early 80s. And there's been a bunch of them in recent years, I have noticed. There's been kind of an explosion of them in the last, I would say, 5 to 10 years.
I just went and saw Violent Night in the theater.
Yeah, they get those action ones. Violent Night, a year or two ago, it was Fat Man with Mel Gibson. Did you see that?
Oh, I did not.
That one was interesting. He plays a Santa Claus, but he's your grumpy, cranky old Santa Claus, and some kid gets upset and puts a hit out on Santa. So it's actually it was a lot better than I thought it was going to be. Like I went into it with very low expectations, and I quite enjoyed it. I've heard good things about Violent Night, and that's got David Harbour, so I'm all about David Harbour.
Oh yeah,
but
you
not
might
all
have some of the same lighting issues, but
not all of them are winners. Like I just saw one from this year called Christmas Bloody Christmas, that as cheap as Sleigh Bells looks at times, and as much as I've complained a little bit about, you know, silly things like their car getting towed too early or the lighting or whatever, I would watch Sleigh Bells again before I watch Christmas Bloody Christmas myself. Because that movie fell victim to, it had no story. Like, it literally was, it felt like somebody had seen the Futurama episode with Robot Santa killing people, and we're like, that'd make a cool movie. Let's just do that. But then they put no more effort into it other than making a Robot Santa that killed people. Like this
yeah,
had,
I'm looking at the trailer video and even the cover, and I'm like, I feel like I could have predicted. I did not watch that, and probably because it just didn't even grab me.
There's nothing there. That's my complaint about that movie.
Yeah.
Is it's like there's literally no story. It's just a couple of people, and then a Robot Santa goes crazy and kills people in a small town, and that's it. What I liked about Sleigh Bells was they wanted to tell a little story. It sometimes doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, but they have a story going on. These three girls, they're off to have their adventure for Christmas because that's what they do. They're adventure girls. And they're going to go check out Santa Land. And meanwhile, you have the actual Santa Claus who has stopped being, you know, giving gifts because of commercialism and all the toys being made in factories. And so he opened his Santa Land, which went under, and he's been spending the rest of his life just keeping Krampus at bay.
And yeah, that's the thing. It's not like none of this is super new, but it is very character driven.
Mm-hmm.
In such
Yes.
a good way. Like, you care about those characters, and then Santa's got his thing, and they introduce this like yin and yang with Krampus, so that he is tied to Krampus and has to keep the balance in the universe, and the you know, the crazy ex-wife. So yeah, lots of fun in the story.
And that was something, so the yin and yang of Santa and Krampus was something I feel like they wanted to explore more, and they didn't. And then it was just all of a sudden one of the character of Alexei figured it out. Because I was like, as soon as he's like, we can't kill him because, and then he kind of trails off. He's like, but we can't kill him. I'm like, oh, okay. So he and Krampus and Santa are like tied together in some way. And killing Krampus.
I figured it out. Yeah, the foreshadowing was fairly obvious, but then the girls don't really figure out until they see an injury reflect.
Yeah, and it just...
Like, they knock him out and don't figure it out.
Exactly. And they seem like they're fairly smart, so they didn't notice that. And then finally at the end, there's very little build up to it when she turns to Santa with the axe, and he's just like, yeah, okay, go ahead and do it. I was like, oh, wait a minute, I'm missing parts of my story here. Like, we went from A to Q.
Self-sacrificing.
Yeah, but it's like we didn't build to that. We just sort of jumped to it. Which is fine, you know. At the end of the day, I still had a fun time with the movie because it's silly and it's Barry Bostwick doing what he does, and I'm fine with that. Like, I would much rather watch a movie like this that has an earnestness to it, but also it's like trying to tell a story, and they just don't quite have the facilities for it. Christmas Bloody Christmas, I didn't care at all about a single character in that movie, and they're literally all there just to be cannon fodder for the Robot Santa. There isn't a single plot or story element to give us any reason for any of them to be there other than they're just lining up for the slaughter. Whereas there's at least something going on. You've got kind of the cops, and they're trying to figure it out. And sure, it's muddled and it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And like Richard Mall might have just been wandering by one day and they decided to have him in the movie. I don't know. It was awesome.
Yeah, like, how'd they get him?
Yeah, he's great for the 30 seconds he's on screen. And I just, you know, again, it's something where you want more of it. But like there's a heart to this movie in a way. Like, it's weird to say that because it doesn't sound like a movie that would have that kind of heart. But there is a heart into this movie and like a true desire to make something fun and just silly entertaining. And they know they're making a B movie. They know exactly what they're trying to make, and they're having fun with that. And I appreciate that. And there is a story being told as well. Because at the end of the day, that's what I want, is a story. So it's a silly movie that's a ton of fun, but it makes me think about other like of these, you know, different Christmas movies, the Black Christmas or Violent Night, and like do you think that we're seeing more of these in recent years because of just the fact that it's easier for people to make movies now? Like the democratization of like how cheap it is to get a camera and get actual halfway decent lighting and put something out there where you can sort of self-produce. It's kind of like self-publishing your books, where we're seeing more and more people be able to be authors because
I think
they can do that.
I think this has been going on for longer than we tend to realize. Blair Witch was a turning point in horror and movie making in general for a lot of reasons. I mean, there weren't a whole lot of single camera things that really, really hit where people's like, oh, I can do that. I think Kevin Smith gets a little credit with some of his stuff where people realize, like, I can just go make a movie. But recently, more and more, it's like the equipment is cheaper. Your phone cameras are good enough that you can kind of make a movie, and editing software is free. And why not throw it out there has definitely become part of our culture. I mean, and the way it fits in with this is it's the whole YouTube thing. Like, does everyone think they're going to get famous? No, but it makes the art accessible. Like the same way that synthesizers made music accessible to people who couldn't really play an instrument. You know?
Yeah. I mean, you even go, Kevin Smith is a great example because he had to max out a bunch of credit cards and take, loans from family members and like sell off his comic collection to make one movie. And he basically bet everything on making Clerks, and he got incredibly lucky that it caught on. It was good enough that enough people saw it and it grew, and he made a whole career out of it, which is one of the things that I love listening to him talk about. He's like, I just got lucky, and he knows it, but he's ridden that forever. But that was kind of the start of it. Blair Witch is a great one because Blair Witch is not the first found footage movie by far, but it was such a hit that it showed that you can do something like that and have it be big. And then, sort of...
And the talent was in the editing to make it believable as found footage.
Yes. And then
instead
as you
of just
see...
looking like a piece of a documentary or something.
Right. And then you see things like YouTube come along, and it's really come down to accessibility of equipment, because it used to be that you had to spend well upwards of $1,000 for a single camera to be at all decent. Now you can get 3 or 4 cameras probably for that price that look fine. You can get lighting. Lighting is cheaper and it's easier to manage and run with LEDs, especially in light panels and all of that.
Yeah.
You don't have to have these big, heavy, expensive, hot tungsten lights that you would have to lug everywhere.
Just change the color without changing a cell. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. All of that. It's so much easier to diffuse them and set up, you can have huge panels of LEDs for relatively inexpensive, especially compared to old lights, or you can have tiny little ones. There's just the
digital media and storage and moving it around, because you don't have to have your whole staff in a location because you have physical film.
Right. Or developing that film, getting that film processed, and the expense that's there. You can do multiple takes. You can, storage is a lot cheaper. And then on top of editing is becoming easier and easier as more people have access to the tools to do it, and digital editing. I thought the editing overall of Sleigh Bells, not terrible. I don't think the camera work was spectacular, and that's where I felt a little bit of that kind of lower budget. But the editing itself I thought was good. You mentioned the Krampus costume, which looked great. And the sound mix, especially the sound around Krampus, I thought was really good. They did just enough kind of gore and killing to show a little bit of where they put some money for that without kind of going overboard and either stretching it too far or, showing that, we didn't have enough money to make a bunch of kills, so we put it into the few that we showed on screen. The rest of the stuff we did off screen.
And that's another to show that the violence was spread through the town so much where you couldn't eliminate the cop shop because that's where you heard about the call. People are calling in and they were talking about, oh, another family, and the one scene at someone's house where the cops throwing up because it was so gory and violent and children, and they didn't have to show all that, but they did need the exposition. Otherwise, it's like, well, who cares if Krampus is just,
Yeah.
hanging out at the old Santa land?
That scene cracked me up too because you got Richard Mall and he's sort of the beat down cop and the younger one is throwing up at first. But I love the moment where the guy's like, I can't write this report. And Officer Green thinks he's just like, doesn't have the stomach for it. And then he realizes, no, it's because he threw up on his notepad.
On his notepad, and just hands him another one.
He just grabs his notepad, throws it at him, and keeps talking to the park ranger. That made me laugh. And there again, that's the kind of thing that I think if you don't have an actor like a Richard Mall who can deliver that so well, that scene doesn't work. But you get Richard Mall for a day, and he's perfect for it. It's just his delivery. Oh man, he throws it at him. He just keeps walking and that's where again Barry Bostwick.
The cleverness of that one liner.
Yep. Yeah, let that moment just play. That's where getting Barry Bostwick to be your Santa Claus, I think, helps to make this more memorable because he's just a goofball. And Santa is such a silly character in this, and it's great. When Krampus wakes back up, when Santa and Krampus both wake up. After we've had our little montage of them, I love that where they've got a passed out Krampus tied to a chair, and so they decide to decorate him with holiday stuff and take selfies.
Oh my gosh, yeah, and that was such a that type of streamer, believable. Yeah. Although I'm wanting to scream at them too,
yeah,
you're so stupid. Please, what? But it was funny as hell.
It really was. It really was, and it fit for them perfectly. But then when Krampus gets up and she punches him and then kicks him in the junk, and you see Santa doubled over, and he's like, I think I peed myself. That made me laugh. That was a brilliant, that moment just cracked me up. It was so good.
So coming up soon locally, by the way, in a town 15 minutes down the road from me, in this teeny tiny town in North Carolina, for some reason, Barry Bostwick is going to be at a theater special showing of Rocky Horror.
Nice.
And you can buy it's one of those Eventbrite, you can buy a ticket and go see him, and I pay a ridiculous amount of money. Well, not ridiculous, but Barry Bostwick signature ridiculous. Meet him and sign something. And I'm thinking I want to have a print made of the Sleigh Bells poster and go to this and get him to sign it.
That'd be good. I would.
Everybody's going to bring some kind of Rocky Horror swag, right?
Sure. Oh, yeah. But how many people are going to bring Sleigh Bells? That's a good one. I like that.
Unless he looks at me and goes, oh, I didn't do that movie. Oh, my God. Don't show that to anybody.
Now, I will say, so we're going to spoil the movie a little bit, but that's what we do on this show. The twist at the end that Cherry, who we saw at the beginning of the movie in the bar, which that scene was pretty funny in a lot of ways, where they walk in and you got the guy he's wearing the Santa coat, drunk at one end of the bar. And because the girls come in and they're all like, Merry Christmas, because it's Christmas Eve, right? And the guy at the end of the bar is like, F Christmas. And so does Cherry behind the bar. And it's like, oh, okay, these are just people that don't like. She even has tattooed on her knuckles. And then she shows up at the end, and she apparently is the one that let Krampus out. That's where I'm like, I wanted more, because she just showed up and said she was behind the whole thing, but how? What did she do? We don't know. She just unthawed Krampus, I guess. She finally had enough. How long had she been doing this? That's the only thing. That was where I was like, did I miss a scene, or was there?
Because she was the crazy ex.
But yeah,
she mentioned briefly once early on, but like, because there was something about Mrs. Claus. One of the girls asked about Mrs. Claus,
Mm-hmm.
and I can't remember exactly how he replied, but it wasn't enough to figure out that it was Cherry being referred to.
No.
I think that was supposed to be a reveal. And yeah, there were like, was there some cutscenes where there was a little more exposition or, whatever. Surprise! We're
Yeah.
gonna end it now with some crazy crap because it's that kind of movie.
That was very much like well, we're at the hour and 10-minute mark of our runtime, so let's just end the movie, which is fine. Again, like, end of the day, I don't really care that much. It was just, that's where I wanted some more, because she was pretty much there just to laugh maniacally, which she did really well. That was a good evil laugh. She had a very good evil laugh.
It was. She had a whole Disney villain demeanor going on there, and like rubbing up on Krampus and
Yeah, showing up in her biker leathers with the red corset, rubbing up on Krampus was well, that was a visual. We'll put it that way. It's not one that I'll soon forget, whether I want to or not.
one time you'll walk into a bar and you'll see almost that. I know it's happened to me.
Yeah, this is true. This is true. But it's just, it's a silly movie, but I have fun with it. And I do enjoy these kinds of movies when they're done well like this, or at least enjoyably like this. I don't think all of them work. There's I think it was last Christmas on Gore, the horror movie podcast that I do. We watched the Krampus movie from 20...
Oh, and I keep meaning to get to that one.
And it's okay, but it felt like it needed to be... It's PG-13, and they wanted sort of a more kind of wide audience thing. But it felt like it either needed to go campier or it needed to go R. And it sort of rode the fence on it a little bit. And it's from the director of Trick or Treat, the anthology, with Sam, the little pumpkin head kid. Mm-hmm. So I know that the director is capable of doing a good horror movie, but it almost felt like he wasn't allowed to go full on horror movie, or didn't want to, but didn't quite. It's like I don't know. It's
they almost
weird.
Take themselves too seriously,
kind of, and yet don't at the same time. It didn't quite. It's very similar to Gremlins in that way, except Gremlins it worked for me a lot better than Krampus did, but I still like that those kinds of movies exist. I think that's a better version of some of them. There's a lot that are low budget that show that low budget and they rank low. This, actually, surprisingly, I was surprised. It's only like a 4.2 on IMDb for Sleigh Bells. And that was lower than I would have
think a lot of people
thought.
tuned in and didn't get it, and I don't think I'm that surprised, especially being my second watch, because we had decided to do this, and then I was watching it a second time. I'm like, oof, okay, you might really not you might really hate this, because it really does walk that line that not everyone who even likes bad movies is gonna be laughing and think it's okay. There's people have a taste that's what's forgivable and what's not.
Mm-hmm.
But having the Barry Bostwick, Richard Mole, those nice little and the Easter eggs that even I'm catching, definitely makes some things a little more forgivable.
I can forgive a lot more in this than I can in some other movies, because it just feels like this feels like they had an idea of what they wanted to do, and then they just sort of had to cut some things out for time. And so that's where it gets a little muddled. But they knew they were going enough tongue-in-cheek without it being full-on wink at the camera, hey, we're being clever and funny. There's a line on that you can do for me. And while sometimes that fourth wall breaking stuff can work in a movie like a Daredevil, where that character, or not Daredevil, Deadpool, where that character is going to do that, there are times where a movie can become too self-aware. And I feel like something like a Sharknado, for instance, where what they want to make is a horrendously over-the-top B movie. that they go they it's almost like trying too hard to do that. This movie is trying to do that. They're trying to make a B movie, and they know that. But there's something about the way they're doing it that to me is more forgivable for some of the things that are silly. Like they have the let's huddle up and come up with our plan scene intercut with like them getting their weapons ready, and it's like they're the dumbest looking weapons you've ever seen, but I don't care because it's like there's a silly earnestness to what they're doing that I can.
Yeah,
get
they've
behind.
got the on purpose tropism. They didn't go ahead and break fourth wall, except they had the device of being able to use something that was filmed for their channel to kind of throw that in without wrecking, their bizarre momentum. And yeah, it just seemed like they were having a really good time regardless. They knew what they wanted to do. I mean, I agree, and I'm really glad you enjoyed watching it, and I hope other people do too.
I did, and if you go into it realizing what it is, and it's going to be silly, but I think also the chemistry of Alexi, Dahlia, Sadie make it, because if those three don't feel as though they actually get along and are friends, which is interesting because if I want to put on my straight up storytelling kind of pedantic hat, like Alexi starts off as I don't know if I really want to go, but then she's all about it. Mm-hmm. But you kind of realize, no, these are good friends. Like she might not watch their videos, but she's friends enough with them to just hang out and go along. So I sort of, I could forgive that.
Tropey too, like with the three of them, because they had, Lexi was kind of she's that responsible one. She's going to college. She's, she doesn't have time to be watching your show. And then you've got the middle one who's the like, go, adventure, danger, I don't care. And then you've got the young one who's just like super cute and all thinking about her boyfriend all the time. And but it's a chemistry that just balances out. And these are groups of friends that you all know.
Yes. Yep. Exactly that. And they work together because this movie does also do like the tropey thing of the boyfriend who shows up and then dies right away. Which was great because like how did he even know where to go? Because we had seen her sneak off and send him a text message.
She kept losing signal, and
she called him, but that was it. And then he just like showed up, which made me laugh because when he starts yelling Sadie and she's like, "Who is that?" And then it's Brian, and I'm like, "Really, the boyfriend?" Well, okay, so he dies.
It's the red shirt.
Yeah, but they do that, and they do it in a way that nothing in this movie made me angry. Like sometimes I'll watch a bad movie and something will happen and it completely takes me out of it. And this movie never got to that point. It never quite crossed that line. It got toes up to it. It got close in some parts. Like it wanted to. It teased me that it was going to cross the line, but it never quite got there where I'm just like, all right, we're done. I can't stand this anymore. It was fun.
Like that's the line. That's the line you're drawing with these kind of movies. And that's why it was good. It was only the length it was too. Because you could only toe up to that line so many times before you just kind of go, I'm out. I can't anymore. I got to go.
Yeah.
Like the new Monsters. Mm-hmm. Rob Zombie's Monsters. I noped out. I actually couldn't even finish it.
Oh, wow.
Like, so bad. So bad. And I was so excited, looking forward to it. Like, even if it's bad on purpose, I was like, people are just mad because they don't remember how bad and campy the TV show was, right? Like, they're misremembering or they have this nostalgia, and then I know.
That remaking something that started off campy is always tough, too. Like, you can make something campy, and it can work. Sleigh Bells or Batman 66 or The Munsters. Those kinds of things can work. But trying to capture that again is where it gets difficult. Like John Waters, for instance, can do John Waters films. But if somebody tries to make a film like a John Waters movie, it just doesn't land right. There's something not quite there about it. It's sort of like doing Mel Brooks style satire, where not everybody can do that and do it well. Mel Brooks is good at it. The Zucker brothers were good at it back with like Airplane and whatnot, or Top Secret was another one that got that right. But then you can also, like the first Scary Movie did it fairly well. But then all of a sudden you're getting disaster movie and epic movie and some of these where they're just going after the low-hanging fruit and the simple, easy joke, and it doesn't work. And camp can be the same thing. Like, I don't want to see a remake of Batman, the 60s Batman series. I don't want that because
Oh, no.
there's a charm to that you just can't recapture. There was an animated series of Batman that went in that same direction, and it was Batman the Brave and the Bold. And instead of trying to be yet another kind of dark and brooding Batman, a la Batman the Animated Series, they went in a campier route, and it worked, but they weren't trying to remake that style of Batman. They were just going to be more fun and tongue-in-cheek with it. But when you try to do that, you end up with George Clooney as Batman and Robin. It doesn't work. You just can't do that. So it's like, it's so hard to do, and it's so hard to do
Batman
well.
and Robin was a different thing.
It was very bad.
I've got my own opinions about Batman and Robin because I feel like it stepped into a different space and people weren't able to separate it and appreciate it for what it was because it had that interesting cinematography where it was like comic book panel frames. And I really got caught up in that, and finally introducing like Hacker Robin, like being a bit of a comic side nerd.
Mm-hmm.
There were things in that movie that none of the other ones bothered with. So I kind of have it in its own little space. Like
It's my problem with that is Batman 89 and Batman Returns were very Tim Burton, and he set up a style and he set up a look.
Yep.
And after Batman Returns, Warner Brothers kind of got cold feet in continuing with that type of thing because merchandising was harder with it. And so when Schumacher came in and they did Batman Forever, they went a little bit more in the campy direction, and they started to kind of embrace that. And Batman and Robin, Joel Schumacher's not a bad filmmaker. And I just think that if that movie existed in a vacuum, I think I could appreciate it more. But because it's still part of the progression of those movies, they're all connected. Because
that's something I tend to do. I can put it in a vacuum.
Well, I can too, except that you have Pat Hingle as your Commissioner Gordon, and Michael Gough is still there as Alfred. They are the same character that they were with the Joker a few years earlier.
It's a multiverse, man.
Except that it's the same universe. That's my problem with it. Is they wanted you to think that it's the same.
Not
universe.
in my world, it's not.
But I think there's room for a campy Batman. I don't think the 90s were when we wanted that, and that's that's another problem. Was the audience wasn't looking for that at the time.
Oh yeah, no.
It is what it is. But like that's the sort of thing where it can work when it's Batman 66. Because you go back and watch those are phenomenal. That's some of my favorite Batman stuff. But trying to recreate that is where it gets tricky. And that's
Super
where
hard.
Some of these Christmas movies, these Christmas horror movies, don't always work because they're trying too much to be the just like violent, bloody Christmas movie instead of being lighthearted. And they miss the boat. This movie had like a good balance of the two. And that's
I definitely enjoyed it. It's on my list. This isn't the last time I'm going to watch it. I mean,
it's not the last time I'm going to watch it, if I'm honest. Like, I'll watch this again. It's a short watch, and it can be a lot of fun because it does that balance well of sort of being a horror movie and being a Christmas movie and kind of getting both of those things, in a B movie style. So,
yeah, I mean, I've got to be up late, wrapping presents, having some beers or some eggnog, and I could totally throw this on as one of my every year. This is what I do this to.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I would put this on. It's not on the level, I can't even say it's on the. Saying it's not on the level is disingenuous. It's not the same type of movies like Black Christmas. But Black Christmas was one that I just saw recently for the first time and was pleasantly surprised with how much I enjoyed that movie as a movie and what they were going for in it. It's also, that's very much a product of its time. It's a 70s movie, and it feels like a 70s movie. But this definitely feels like that kind of mid 2010s to late teens type of movie, and it works. And it is that kind of thing that, I'd throw that on and watch it with some friends and just sit back and, because you can poke fun, you can have fun with it without it being too much. And I think also because this movie is not mean-spirited, I think makes a huge difference for me personally. And I know that's a personal
it still has
mine.
that little gem, right, of Christmas in there, of Santa was upset and sad and wanted to do the right thing for children, and that gets redeemed through one little, character. And
and I think that's a thing for me. Like, I want some reasoning behind what's going on in the movie. Don't just give me a movie that is violent and bloody for the sake of being violent and bloody. That's Christmas, Bloody Christmas. And that, to me, is boring because I'm not getting anything out of that. Even if it's going to be a downer of a movie. I mean, one of my favorite movies that I've ever seen is Zodiac. And Zodiac doesn't have a happy ending. Zodiac is not an uplifting movie. But there's a reasoning behind everything that goes on in it. And so you can do that. You can have a downer movie or a movie that's not happy, but it still be really good because there's purpose and motivation behind what's going on. And I think there's purpose in this movie to just kind of have like, well, what if Santa sort of retired because no one cared about Santa Claus anymore, but he still exists. He's still got his magic, and he's got to keep Krampus at bay because Krampus is just like, I got to have kids. Also, what were the little fur balls with teeth? What were those supposed to be?
Oh my goodness! See,
do we have any idea?
I know,
because they were just sort of.
It was the way they were going to basically kill all the children, is to put those in the stockings.
Okay.
When they delivered presents, that was the thing they were going to deliver, was tiny little, I don't know,
critters.
Krampus parasites to just kill everyone.
They were like if
kill all the children.
The critters and the Langoliers had babies, they would be those little furry things. Because they were like the critters, but they had no eyes. It was very confusing, but at the same time, that scene was kind of silly and fun. So
yeah, that was a very gremlin-y, like just
it kind of was
random horror furry stuff going crazy that had to happen at some point, like to explain how they were gonna like use one night of delivering presents to just, after stealing the sleigh, just kill all the children.
I do like that at the beginning of that scene, they go into that building and then Krampus runs up and locks the door on them from the outside and then just leaves. Like he knows what's in there, and so he's like, all right, we'll let the critters take care of them.
Yeah.
I also very much liked Sadie sitting on Santa's lap, asking him all the questions about how he comes down the chimneys and all that, and his answer is just like magic. And then the second question, he's like, no, it's still magic.
Magic. Yeah.
By the fourth question, he's like, look, it's magic. Okay, can we just move on? How do you walk in those shoes? Magic. Exactly. So let's not think. And basically, it's telling the audience, just don't think about it too much. Santa's magic, and that's all you need to know. So it was fun.
Mm-hmm.
This is as long as you like and you can stand kind of cheesy B movies. Because I do agree with you there. You got to be that mindset. I know people that just wouldn't be able to wrap their head around this and wouldn't be able to enjoy it. That's fine. If it's not for you, it's not for you. But if you can,
everyone, yeah.
If you like those kind of movies, if you like some camp, check this movie out because it's streaming free everywhere, and it's an hour and 15 minutes. You're not going to take there are episodes of Stranger Things longer than this movie. Okay, so. I think it's fun. September, this was cool that you brought this to me because this isn't the type of movie. I wouldn't have sought this movie out myself. This isn't one that I would have gone out. Even if I had heard of it before, it's not one that I'm going to be like, I should sit down and watch Sleigh Bells. That'd be fun. Like, there are a million other movies I would have chosen before this, but I'm glad I saw this. So
well, good. That's excellent. It couldn't be a better result because you were like, wow, you got to come on the show again soon. And it's like, okay, does it just have to be something I bet you haven't seen this. And it was so close to Christmas, and I was already planning to go see Violent Night, so it was like popped into my head, like, ooh, okay, I'm gonna make him watch this. And then I was rewatching, and I was like, oh, all right. Hope he doesn't hate it too much, but at least there's cool guest stars and Easter eggs. So I'm glad you really enjoyed it.
I will say this. Every time I'm talking to potential guests or returning guests, and they always ask me, well, what should we talk about? My one rule for this show is always, doesn't matter as long as one person has never seen the movie before. Because what's going to happen is the conversation is going to grow out of that. And I am of the mind that even if I didn't like the movie, there's still a conversation we can have about it. And there's still things that we can talk about, because 9 times out of 10, I'm going to find something redeemable in a movie that I can talk about. But also, maybe I just don't like anything at all, or you don't like anything at all. Tank Girl is the one I always go back to, because it was the movie I had 3 guests on who had never seen the movie before, and all 3 of them hated it. And I enjoy Tank Girl because of what it is.
I love Tank Girl.
Yeah, like Tank Girl is just this ball of directionless energy, and it's great fun for that. And Lori Petty is just having a blast playing Tank Girl. But none of my guests liked it, but it still made for a good conversation, because I could talk to them about, well, what did you like, what didn't you like? And I'm not going to sit there. I'm never going to try and necessarily change someone's mind. I just want them to think about some other aspects of it. And the same thing with me. If I don't like something, I want to, but I still want to have the conversation with somebody who does like what's going on. So it's super fun.
Oh yeah.
And
I just tend to always think of your show as watching, it's usually big blockbusters, right? Like you were just talking about Gremlins recently, or Wait You Haven't Seen being something like, The Godfather, or something that like everyone has seen, or everyone assumes everyone has seen.
Right.
And picking a little, I appreciate the opportunity to pick something little and off the beaten path for this.
Sometimes it's the most fun.
Too.
Like because it's very much, whoa, you haven't seen Die Hard? Wait, we got to fix that. Or, somebody who hasn't seen The Princess Bride, like, I thought The Princess Bride just got delivered in the mail with boxes of Tide, but then it is fun to go after these little things, the Sleigh Bells, or some of the lesser known Nick Cage movies that I've seen, like Pay the Ghost, or Pig was another one that is lesser known. That one got a little more notoriety, but like, some of these weird off the beaten path movies are fun. You can have a lot of fun with them. So this was a great suggestion, and I thank you for that. Plus, just having you on is always fun. And it had been almost 2 years.
No, it was like last August.
Well, it was a year ago, this past August.
Right.
So it had been so not quite,
a year and a half.
almost a year and a half, which is a long time. I've done like 70 episodes since then. It's crazy. Which I'm coming up on 200 episodes. And I can't believe that. It'll be in just a couple of weeks, actually. I'm still trying to figure out exactly what's going to happen for episode 200. Maybe I'll finally watch The Godfather. Who knows?
Yeah, yes, I haven't seen it either.
I am one of those. I'm finding there's a large number of people that I know that haven't seen The Godfather. So,
weird. It's like the other half of the world is just insanely crazy and watched it a million times.
Pretty much.
And then there's the rest of us.
Yeah. But now you have a show that you do roughly every week, right? You guys do that weekly.
I have a couple of shows I do every week.
Well, tell people
almost every week. Okay. Well, Geek Grills is my longest continuously running show, and you can find that on Twitch at Geek Grills. Also, I'm doing the Part-Time Gamers.
That's right.
With Cyrenix and Mr. Bingo, and we stream that live and record it, but you can find it. You know what? Go to 9of12.com, NINEOF12.com, and it'll link you to Heresy and Hearsay, Part-Time Gamers, and Geek Grills, and all of our associated channels.
Perfect. 9of12.com. Spell out the word 9 and then the numbers for 12. Yep. NINEOF12.com. 9of12.com. That's awesome. That's a perfect way to do it.
And I also have the little mnemonic in there. Like, if you can't remember which numbers and letters, it's alpha, then numeric.
There you go. See? Perfect. And I have been on Part-Time Gamers. That's a fun show. I don't think I haven't been on Geek Grills yet, but that's a great show.
I thought you had. Okay.
It's possible. I don't remember. I
It's been
do,
a long
I do
time
too
ago.
many
That show's been
things.
around like for 6 years. So
Could be. So yeah, this show is normally recorded Sunday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern time. This past Sunday was Christmas Day, so we weren't doing that. But it does come out as a podcast on Wednesdays. You can also catch the video on demand on Twitch, twitch.tv/tvstravis. You can catch those videos on YouTube, youtube.com/@tvstravis as well. The show has a Patreon, so if you want to help the show out financially, you can do that for as little as $1 an episode. You can also go to Ko-fi, ko-fi.com/tvstravis. Basically, TV Stravis on any platform, social media or otherwise, is probably me. I make it a point to get all of those. And there is a rework of tvstravis.com happening soon. I've got still some work to do on that, but that'll be a lot of fun. And yeah, I have episode 199 is next. This coming Sunday, Tyler Cardwell is going to be back. We haven't decided what we're going to watch yet, but we're going to decide here in the next day or so. So I'll be putting that on Twitter, Mastodon, and other places. You can find me as TV's Travis on all of those. So September, thanks so much for being on. This was great fun. We can't go another year and a half, though. We got to have you back before that.
oh, absolutely, anytime.
Excellent. And yeah, this show will be out tomorrow. Actually, is Wednesday, is it not? Yes, it is. Oh, boy, the days are getting away from me. It's already.
I know.
We're already.
My husband took this whole week off, and it's going too quick already.
It really is. But yeah, and then of course, big episode number 200 coming up in a couple of weeks. So stick around for that. If you are a listener of this show and you have any sort of memories or anything that you've really enjoyed in the show over the first couple of 100 episodes, drop me a line, either tvstravis@gmail.com or on Twitter @tvstravis, of what kind of your favorite moment has been. Maybe was there a particular movie that maybe you hadn't seen before and the show got you to watch it and you really enjoyed it, or you hated? Has there been a guest that you've really liked having on, or anything like that? Let me know. I'd love to hear from you as well. So definitely do that. But that has been the show for this week. So September, once again, thank you so much for being here. And 9of12.com to find all the shows that you are a part of. So until next week, and whatever movie Tyler and I are going to watch, just remember to enjoy your movies and to be excellent to each other.
Santa Claus is coming to town, bitches.
That was such a great little team up, get ready moment. They all do the hands in there and Santa. I did capture a couple of lines, but it was so hard to find any good memorable lines that weren't full of F-bombs.
Yeah,
Like,
it doesn't do the catchphrasey stuff very well.
Even the opening of the movie was, which I do love when a movie does that, where they drop you into the story and then be like 12 hours earlier. And then we spend an hour getting to that point. That was fun. Oh, it's tons of fun. Thank you so much for being here.
Good. I'm glad. I'm really, really glad you didn't hate it. Because, I mean, that would be a conversation too, but way more awkward. And the first time I was on, we just agreed. But, like, this was, I think we get a little more into details. I think the movie being so simple, let us get into details about Why?
I think so.
You know?
I would say of the two movies that we've talked about on this show, this was the more rewatchable of the two, because we did Season of the Witch, that Nick Cage one.
Nick Cage.
Like, for Nick Cage and Ron Perlman, it was watchable, but it was also just like boring. Like, just sort of stuff happened, and neither one of us hated it, but it was kind of just there. This has some cheese and some camp and some rewatchability to it. So I would watch this again before I watch Season of the Witch.
So I can record a whole thing or write you an email. I will stand with you to defend Tank Girl.
Absolutely.
Always. Holy crap. Yeah, when I listened to that episode, and Brian was talking about it on TMS and how bad he thought Tank Girl was, and I was mortified. Because we have so much in common. I'm just like, how can you be so wrong?
It's weird to me, because I think that part of it, like when I did it for this show, the three guys that I had, it was three guys, and they were all kind of my age and younger.
Mm-hmm.
And they were watching it for the first time in like 2019. And I had seen it in the 90s when it came out. Shortly after it hit home video, actually. I didn't see it in theaters, but I remember renting it. And so there was a little bit of kind of nostalgia for me, but also I just think that it's just a fun, I love goofy, zany movies like that. And that one,
I've rewatched it over and over. And I think it probably helps with me. Like, that was oh my God, I was such a crush on Lori Petty. Like,
oh, well,
and I
yeah.
always will. Like, but that was kind of the beginning of it. And, I mean, I've got some old Tank Girl comics too, though. Just, she definitely embraced it and loved doing it. And
well, and that's why that works, right? If she doesn't love that role the way that she does, it doesn't work, because she puts so much into that movie, and she becomes Tank Girl.
Yes. The energy is so there, and it's just so punk rock, freaking, like, pre-Harley Quinn, right? Like,
yeah, oh yeah. Plus, it's got Ice-T as a anthropomorphic kangaroo, who has my favorite line in the movie when they're asking him what they used to be, and Ice-T, and this is before Ice-T was on Law and Order SVU, and they're like, "What were you in your previous life?" He's like, "I was a cop." And the thing about that, it's so funny, because at that point, like, one of the things he's most known for was being a rapper and Body Count and their song. And so for, like, that was so good. Loved it. Excellent. Well, I am going to call it a night, because I do have to work in the morning, and work has been not great this week already. And today was the first day of the week. I hate year end. Year end is never fun, because I work for a company that does payroll. So year end is just like, everything's on fire.
Yep.
For
my friend Lori is like that. I won't see her for a couple weeks.
I used to work
payroll.
Yeah, I used to work for with somebody named Lori, who was up in the Northeast, and I miss her. She left a couple of years ago, and it's one of those, like, oh, why do the good people have to leave? Right. Anywho.
Yeah, right now I'm just making sure. Seems all my people back home are safe.
Good.
I'm from Buffalo.
Oh, right.
So,
geez.
And my family's up there, and wow, there's some stuff. So, but I'm safe in North Carolina right now.
Because we got hit here pretty bad with snow. Like, we got from Thursday night until basically Sunday morning, it didn't stop snowing.
Where are you?
I'm in northern Michigan.
Okay.
So basically, what we got kept moving over the lakes and then dumped everything on Buffalo.
Yep.
So our couple of feet became, because it'll hit Lake Erie and basically pick up steam again. Is what ends up happening.
Yeah.
It gets over Huron, it gets over Lake Erie, and then Western New York
whole lake
just
effect
gets dumped.
And they had super high wind, and it did one of those. Once in a while, it happens. It'll just stall.
Yep.
And keep dumping while that wind was going on. Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, that's no fun. So that's like...
But here it just got cold. Oh, but I will share the funniest thing about here. it did get down to like single digits, right? And wind chill was below 0, which around here was just panic inducing.
Oh, I bet.
But people losing power here were losing power because no one would turn their heat down.
Right.
But I looked up the weather alert and it said cold wave invading. And I'm like, invading?
Invasion.
Is it the White Walkers? Calm down, people. Like it's just gonna be 8.
Right. Well,
Stay inside.
you know, they don't know how to deal with that. I felt bad for the people in the plains, like Iowa and Nebraska and stuff, where it was getting 30 and 40 below. Like that's it's too cold to snow at that point. And so all you have is cold. Like thankfully we got negative temperatures, but it got into the negative teens, which is just awful. Like once you get past, below 0,
It's that
it's
face
nothing.
hurty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's no fun. I went out to snowblow my driveway and I used one of my COVID masks and put that on. I'm like, I'm glad I got these. It covered my face.
Oh, there you go.
That helped. Alrighty. Well.
All right. Well, you have a good night. Thanks again for having me on.
Yeah, and what was I gonna say? And I forgot to plug it. I gotta record for Big Voice J. I gotta do a little plug for the Diamond Club Streamathon. Can't forget to do that.
Oh yeah, I'm glad that you could step in and take some of that time. Cause
yeah, I'm actually gonna end up
tickets.
doing 2 hours.
Awesome.
Yeah, because they
it was just awkward. Like he contacted me, and there was a Discord that went out in October, and they were gonna have some kind of meeting, and and I just never heard. So I thought, well, they must have just filled it up and they don't want me this year. I thought I raised good money last year. So I bought tickets to a cool show, and then they're like, hey. Oh, shit.
It sounded like
got
it was
some
a little...
people that should take part.
Yeah, it sounded like it was a little less organized maybe this year than previous years had been.
I think he had some stuff going on, and I think somebody got COVID and everything.
That would probably do it, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it should be fun.
I'm glad you're doing that.
Yeah, I'm doing a morning. I'm on at like 10:30 in the morning, but I'll do. I started playing Return to Monkey Island last night, and that's tons of fun. So I think I'm going to keep playing that, and maybe do some racing, because Renegade is right before me, and he likes to do the Forza 5 races. So I can, I can always jump into Forza 5 and lose races to him. It'd be just like any other Sunday. But anywho,
there you go.
Alrighty. Well, thanks again, and I will put this out, and then I'll make sure to tag you and stuff about it as it hits the feeds and things.
Excellent. Thanks.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
And to all you lovely people in the chat. Oh, you got the RSS? Nice. I'll have to check that out. If not tonight, I'll play with it tomorrow for sure. Yes, Cole, it was Faithful's the comic, which is strange, but good. But yeah, thanks everybody for hanging out. I will be, tomorrow night I am not around because I'm going to actually get together with a friend of mine I haven't seen in like 2 years. And then, but I'll be back. I'll probably be back Thursday night doing something is my, my plan. And then, of course, this weekend with all sorts of fun stuff. So, and those were the days we'll be back next week with Iron Chef. I can't wait for that. It's going to be fun. Jules Scott, if you want to raid. All right, let's take a look at who this Jules Scott is. Send y'all over there, maybe. Who's Jules Scott? Jules Scott DJ? Is that who we're... Ah, that's loud. $64 in January? Jeez. I don't like it. All right, everybody. Yeah, we'll send over there. Sure, why not? Jules Scott DJ. Go on over there and oh, nice. So raid Jewel Scott DJ. All right, everybody, have a great night. And thanks for hanging out. We'll see you soon. Bye. Raid.